Leslie Spencer, no relation to me, estimated that cost of compliance to civil rights and diversity legislation costs 4% of GDP. So we're talking somewhere on the order of $560 billion of just the cost of conforming to civil rights and diversity affirmative action legislation. And I think what's also most important about this whole system is, again, that it's a total lie. It is a lie in every way. The word itself is a lie. What it is a lie. How it's implemented, we lie about that. Who benefits? Who pays? How high the cost is. We lie about this every day. And I think perhaps most tragic is that even when we're criticizing affirmative action, libertarians and conservatives will lie about it. And what I mean by this is, what is affirmative action? It seems like this phrase is at worst innocuous, at best benign. Affirmation seems good. Action is better than passivity. Affirmative action is anti-white discrimination, period. Whenever you hear the word affirmative action or diversity, you should substitute in your mind anti-white discrimination. Therefore, when you hear General George Casey talk about how diversity is the great strength of America, you should insert anti-white discrimination is, in his mind, the great strength of America. Whenever you hear your professor or a administrator talk about how they're going to expand diversity programs at Vanderbilt University, you should substitute in your mind, we're going to expand anti-white discrimination programs at Vanderbilt University, because that's what it is. We don't want to say it. Diversity is almost like a euphemism on top of a euphemism, because it's we don't even want to say affirmative action anymore, so we say diversity. How it's implemented is a total lie. I think a lot of people think that affirmative action is a tiebreaker, something where we have these two candidates and they're equally qualified and equally wonderful and unique experiences, but this one's black and this one's white. So we're just going to give the edge, to the black guy or the black girl. That is not what affirmative action is like, even the slightest. And I'll actually show you proof of that coming up. This is a massive, structural, systematic program. Who benefits? Who pays? Again, you hear conservatives talk about Asians, or whenever they'll criticize affirmative action, this hurts Asians or something. Like, well, of course it does hurt Asians. The primary target are white males. In particular, white people in general. When we talk about cost, I'll certainly go into that. We tell half-truths when we criticize affirmative action. We'll often say things like affirmative action is bad for black people or something like this. It's a very typical conservative response. That seems self-evidently false. Affirmative action is quite good for black people. I'm reminded of the Colin Powell's line that someone was talking about how affirmative action truly harms black people, and he said, because their achievements are devalued or something like this. And he goes, what I suggest is that you go get a big job at a big law firm and make lots of money, and then you can afford the therapy sessions afterward in order to take care of this harm of having your achievements devalued. Affirmative action is clearly something that's quite good for black people. Why do we have race-based promotions and preferences? Well, I think there are two answers to that, and one of them is empirical, and the other is a little more ideological. And I'll start with that second one first. If you look at the left, the history of the left and Marxists, throughout the 19th century, pretty much up until 1945, their animus, their kind of guiding engine, was basically class-based analysis, and this vision that the working class or the proletariat was somehow a kind of universal subject. It was going to overthrow the powers that be, and it was going to inaugurate a kind of universal communistic society. That was the vision. Around 1945, obviously this is a general trend, you can't put a date on it. They began to see that the working class was actually highly patriotic. The working class, of course, supported the nation in going to war in World War I, most in particular. I think, the typical Marxian prediction was that the working class would have a general strike, but no, they actually fought for their fatherlands and motherlands. And they began to stop, leftists and Marxists began to stop worrying themselves about the working class, the proletariat, and they became very concerned with the third world, with basically the non-white world. And that includes, obviously, all different colors, although I would say Africans probably played a very significant role in this. And you had a kind of, what you used to have a sense of the working class and proletariat would overthrow the plutocratic capitalists. You now have a new vision of the third world, the non-white world, being a universal subject that's going to overthrow European imperialism or American imperialism and inaugurate a kind of universal society. This is the leftist vision, and I think you really have to understand that. If you look at the red line and the purple line, you can also look at the green line, which is Spanish. Basically, whites who come from, who are, let's call them I say this lovingly, the rednecks, makes the red line, right? And they're earning less than 10K. They have essentially a higher IQ or a higher SAT score, which correlates with IQ, of course, higher SAT score than African Americans who come from households that have over $70,000 of family income. So basically, if you did, I'm not saying I support this, but if you did class-based affirmative action, it would be a massive boon for the kind of rural hillbillies, and it would really not help blacks at all. So you need race-based affirmative action. Basically, you see this across the board in the sense that educational governmental institutions have ceased to perform the function which they're designed to perform, and instead have become kind of sites of social engineering. And I think the university system is probably, this is just most obvious. No one actually works at most, in the humanities at least, in universities, and no one really attends universities in order to actually learn anything. Most people attend undergraduate school because it offers them a kind of gateway or a ticket in order to get a pretty decent job afterwards. If you don't have a BA degree, you're not going to probably work at a corporation, or you certainly can't go to law school. The professors and the administrators seem to be interested in university not because they want to study anything, but they want to kind of concoct this environment that suits their ideal of a universal global society. And so again, the institution, it ceases to perform its function and instead just becomes some excuse for social engineering. I think that's most obvious in the university system.
I'd like to say that more now, because of the great strides that we've been making in this country, more people from diverse backgrounds have been graduating from high school. So now we need to create a new standard in order to separate them from the rest. So if more people are graduating and more people from diverse backgrounds are graduating from high school, hey, let's move it up. Let's see if they can graduate from college now. Hey, let's move it up. Let's see if they can get a professional degree.
It's like inflation. I mean, the government could just print up billions of dollars and hand it out to everyone, and we'd all be rich for a day. No, the money would lose its value. The government can print up degrees for everyone and give them to everyone, and that doesn't make them worth anything. It's very hard to argue that culture has improved, that people have a greater knowledge of history or language or literature than they did 100 years ago. I think there's been, if you just look at the television set, the newspaper, and you read something that people read, I think it's very clear that we've had a serious dumbing down. A lot of that is to get people affirmatively graduated who should not be attending college in the first place.